saw the SEC issue these two penalties against these two companies for not registering their ICO, how much of a message was being sent not only to these two companies, but really to the rest of the crypto universe?
I don't know that the SEC is in the business of sending messages when it engages in enforcement activity or when it enters into cease and desist orders with companies that have violated securities laws. The SEC, for some time, since the DAO report in 2017 or the Munchie order and in various public statements, has made it clear that, well, this could be really nifty technology, and I personally think it is, that securities laws still apply. That is what, if you talk about the Ether Delta order, which deals with a so-called decentralized exchange, which came out on November 8th, or if you look at the, actually it relates to a person named Coburn, who created a decentralized exchange called Ether Delta, or if you look at the Paragon or AirFox orders that came out on Friday, what they say is actually pretty common sense, which is just because it's newfangled technology doesn't mean that these very established securities laws principles don't apply. And the SEC issued a statement on Friday as well, concurrent with the two orders that it issued on Friday, saying basically the same thing, which is technology is cool, we're in favor of innovation, but don't forget to obey the law. And if you don't, if you read the statement on Friday, it suggests that there is a path towards coming into compliance. So maybe if there's a message, the message might be, look, we've told you, follow the law. If you don't, and you're not a complete fraud, which it doesn't appear that these orders were directed to, maybe there's a way to make things right. Perhaps that's a message we can take. I don't think that those, to your point about the price of Bitcoin, I'm not sure that there is necessarily any connection between the recent SEC activity and the price of cryptocurrency. That may or may not be the case, but it's difficult for me to see a necessary causal relationship.
But interestingly, regulatory concern has been something that's either helped or hindered the market. Certainly optimism about maybe an ETF, a Bitcoin or a crypto ETF coming to the market helps spur rallies, and then it helps pull back on the price point when it doesn't get sanctioned. Do you think this latest ruling in terms of the SEC is going to put to bed ICOs for a while? We've seen initial coin offerings in terms of origination fall off a cliff in the second half of the year.
I got a call an hour ago as I was heading on my way out the door here from somebody who wanted advice about doing what they called an STO, which I think is a fancy way of calling something an ICO. They were calling from Europe and wanted to do this under Reg D. So I don't think that the interest has gone away. That is the ICO interest. I think there was this notion that a few of us have pointed out for a while was silly. There was a notion that you could raise money to build a business by selling something that would give someone access to the business that you were building, and you could somehow get away with not complying with securities laws. I think the notion that you can use ICOs as a way to raise capital and end runs the U.S. securities law compliance, I think that for anybody with an ounce of common sense is a dead letter. I don't think that the model is completely gone, though. And again, I mean, as is often pointed out to me sometimes on social media, the U.S. is not the only market in the world, and securities laws are different elsewhere. So that was a long way of saying I don't think that I don't think we've seen the end of this. What it's going to look like in the United States, I'm not sure. I would not write off Bitcoin, and I would not write off Ethereum. These are very interesting technologies. I'm going to look down because I wrote some notes down about prices. If you look at the Bitcoin price, November 11th, 2015, it was $312. Let's see, in 2016, November 18th, 2016, it was $749. When I was here last year, almost to the day, it was $7,700. I want to say it's about $4,800 now. I mean, if you bought in at 19,000, and you want to sell today, you're going to take a huge loss. But even if we were to look at this in terms of investment, it's, some people have won a lot and some people have lost, but the technology itself remains interesting.
Stephen, real quickly, you said the SEC is not in the business of sending messages. That being said, do you believe that there are a lot of ICOs in the last year whose practices fall into the same category as the ones that the SEC sanctioned last week?
95% of them?
Okay.
Are you familiar with coinmarketcap.com?
Yes.
If you go to coinmarketcap.com and you go down that list, look, if I were an SEC enforcement lawyer, what they have in these orders, and I don't know if you've read them, I have them sitting on the table in front of me, they're templates. The language looks the same, the initial paragraphs are the same, the undertakings are the same, they even have the same initial footnote 1, which says none of these things are precedent. The SEC has done this before, going after dodgy practices. They create a template and they go after folks. And yeah, I don't know if you invested, there's actually a token called the Palley token, Palleys.
Oh.
Yeah, it's for something called decentralized social travel.
All right.